All right, welcome. I am David Frangioni and publisher of Modern Drummer, and very exciting to have you here today for Elise Trouw. We're going to bring her on in 1 second for this live webinar. First, let me go over a couple of things. So, to start with, let's do this. Elise is with us. She's a great singer, songwriter, drummer, of course, and we're going to go over we have lots of questions for her. And we're going to start at the beginning. She's 21 years old, but she's already been playing the drums for well over 10 years. Very accomplished musician and has a lot to share. She was first featured with our own Billy Amendola at On the Beat with Billy Amendola. You can find that on moderndrummer.com. Billy did an awesome piece on her. And we love you, Billy, and thank you for that On the Beat. So be sure to check out Elise Trouw On the Beat. And thank you, everybody. There's just so many drummers joining the Modern Drummer family every day, and we're very grateful for that. moderndrummer.com/subscribe. I don't know where all the drummers are coming from sometimes, but we're so grateful for it. And you guys just keep coming because, man, we're just working really hard for you to bring you tremendous value and insight and access and inspiration. Of course, there'll be a Q&A at the end of this webinar before we let Elise go. And our sponsors today. So Peisty, thank you, Kelly Peisty, Peisty.com. Topeka Live, new generation of virtual meet and greets, moderndrummer.topeka.live. And Drum Channel, drumchannel.com. Don Lombardi, thank you as always, and the entire team there. You guys are amazing. There's just unbelievable amounts of content up there for people to learn at their own pace. And it's just a fantastic site. So thank you, Drum Channel, for your continued support of the entire drumming community. So without further delay, I am going to bring on with us now Elise Trouw. Elise, come on. How are you?
Hey David, how's it going? I'm doing well.
It's going great. Thank you. So let's start at the beginning. You started playing drums at age 9. Take us to that time period, why you got involved with the drums, what inspired you, what you started learning. Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah, so I guess I was playing piano at the time, taking classical lessons, and then my mom, for Father's Day, got my dad the video game Rock Band, and I was way into the virtual drums that were on there, and so I kind of started like obsessing about getting real drum lessons because I wanted to like actually do the thing, and basically, yeah, my mom knew a friend of a friend that taught drum lessons, and I ended up starting to take drum lessons with him when I was about 9, and just got way into it. And he introduced me to a lot of the music that influenced me, my drumming, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny, like the getting influenced by a video game to start playing music, but it really developed into like a passion for me.
And when you started playing, did you start on a practice pad, or what was your evolution like in terms of really finding the instrument and growing?
Yeah, so when I started, it all kind of started when I took my first lesson, and my teacher, Dave Blackburn, he, well, also my parents in the beginning, they're like, we're not going to buy you a drum kit until we really know you're into this, because, you know, it's kind of, definitely a big investment. And so we got a little practice pad, and Dave was teaching me rudiments and like my stick grip and all that sort of stuff before even like developing onto the full kit. And so I can't remember exactly, it must have been a couple weeks that I was just doing that. And then after a few months, my parents were like, oh, she's really serious about drumming, and invested in it was a Gretsch Catalina kit, because I was very small because I was a 9-year-old girl, but that was like one of the only kind of size kits that I could really reach the pedals on. And so we got one of those kits off Craigslist, and that's kind of when I started really diving into the full kit, you know.
And then after that, you discovered School of Rock. Talk to us about School of Rock and what influence and impact it had on you and that time period in your life and your musical growth.
So I think the first experience I had with School of Rock was a summer camp in LA, and then since I was based in San Diego, I started going to one that was based in Vista in San Diego here. And that kind of took me from practicing alone in the basement, and then put me in a room full of other students and young musicians, in a way that made me very nervous at the time, but also just like really pushed my development as a drummer forward. And I think like in the beginning I was really nervous about it, but my mom was like, hey, like it'd be cool if you like started doing this. And I was always like really, I still am, I think, pretty shy, but I was really nervous to do that, but that was probably the thing that made me just like really pushed me forward into like wanting to do music for something more than just a hobby. And my teachers at School of Rock were all amazing, and the program just really like helped me, especially like get over stage fright and like learn how to play with other musicians. And so that was a big part of my musical development for sure.
Well, that's awesome. And in fact, when you must have found that when you push yourself like that, it kind of helps you break through the barrier of the fear, because that's one of all of our greatest fears is playing with musicians you don't know. You don't know how good anybody is or how judgmental anybody is, and it's just a very scary environment. But you grow through it.
Definitely, yeah, it was one of the best experiences of my life, definitely.
Yeah, School of Rock provides a lot of best experiences for people's lives. It's a fantastic, fantastic place to learn. And it was kind of insta band for you, right? Because a lot of times people have to put ads out or network and figure out like, hey, who can I play with? But this was your opportunity to really play with live musicians regularly.
And yeah, I think like going into the program, a lot of the other students were so much more advanced than me, which really helped me also like learn quickly. So it like pushed me to kind of keep up with them. And I'd only been playing for about a year when I joined the program, but there were kids that had been playing for a long time and were really talented there. And so I think like that part of it, just kind of being thrown into the deep end, really inspired me and encouraged me to like just keep getting better.
And then what happened from School of Rock? What was the next step in the evolution?
I kind of started. So one of the my teacher at School of Rock, he began teaching songwriting classes, which is something I hadn't really thought about or even explored at the time. And I'd mainly just been kind of like learning how to play songs, performing them, and that was like kind of the School of Rock model. But my teacher, Tom Mitchell at School of Rock, he started teaching songwriting classes, which kind of opened up my mind to, I started using like GarageBand and started kind of coming up with these compositions of my own. And in the beginning, it was a lot of just like kind of MIDI patterns, random noises, and kind of figuring out how to even like work the software on my computer. But I was probably about 12 or 13 when I started doing that really. And I hadn't started singing at the time, so it was all like instrumental compositions that I was coming up with. But eventually I kind of started singing and like writing and stuff, but I think my voice was really not developed at all, and my pitch wasn't very good. So I was very shy about it. But I guess that was kind of the transition from kind of thinking of myself as a drummer playing live, and then also kind of opening up into that, oh, I'm creating these pieces or compositions, and kind of delving more into the songwriting world.
And really the launch and beginning of you as an artist in addition to being a drummer, because now you're a songwriter, singer, you're really a complete artist.
Yeah, I kind of that definitely encouraged me to kind of even think about that in a new way, you know.
And being a songwriter and a singer, did that change your approach to drumming?
Definitely. I think like when I was just playing drums in a group, I would kind of be thinking of it just from a drummer's perspective, and then um, I guess I wouldn't always really understand like, oh, why is this person playing this part? Why is this person singing this way, or something? And I think kind of developing other, like learning other instruments and beginning to sing and songwrite. Now when I play drums, if I'm like coming up with a beat, I'm like, oh, what's something that I would like to sing over? What is something that I think would sound good with this certain bass line or something, you know? And so I think that is something that all drummers do learn how to do. It's just I think that kind of propelled that for me in viewing it in a viewing drums as a piece of a larger picture of music, really.
Very powerful. So, who are some of your drumming influences? I know we talked before, and you mentioned Steve Gadd, and just like phenomenal drummers have influenced you. So, tell us a little bit about what drummers they are and what kind of influence they had on you, what you've taken from that.
Yeah, so my first teacher, David Blackburn, introduced me to artists like Steely Dan, like Tower of Power, so like David Garibaldi, and more like funk type of stuff. And because at the time I grew up pretty much listening to like top 40s, which was when I was in fourth, fifth grade, it was all like electronic music. So I really started listening to music from like the 70s, 80s, and those types of like that, because that involved like live drums. Um, and so, yeah, my teacher, Dave Blackburn, introduced me to like David Garibaldi. And then my other drum teacher that I started working with later on, Matt Lynott, he introduced me to like Stuart Copeland, Steve Gadd, Buddy Rich, and kind of a lot of our lessons, I'd go in and he'd be like, oh, I found this cool video. Let's like kind of decompose what this person is doing and really dive in and figure out a way to kind of learn it and then apply it to like my drumming style, really.
Gadd's drumming is so perfect for every song that he plays that you must have really connected with that because you're a very song appropriate drummer. When I hear your drumming, it fits the track exactly where the drums really, fit. They just sound great. Gadd does that on every track he plays on. Did you find that too when you were checking out Gadd? Besides all the chops that he has and the great innovations, just how much in the pocket and what he makes a song feel like.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I love about his drumming is like his drum beat can really get stuck in your head. It's like so melodic and so musical that it's almost like a little melody within itself, which I always find interesting about like individual pieces of music all forming one composition. Like if you can like sing the drum beat kind of in your head, then it's I feel like it's something musical, you know.
Yeah, and Buddy would do that in his solos, right? All every time you hear his fills, they're all little melodic phrases that just have so much. You can sing them, like you said. They really are just they're played at blazing speed with great virtuosity, but they're just these incredible melodies, almost like you would expect out of a trumpet or a saxophone or a pitched instrument.
Definitely, yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about your drum setup. You play pearl drums, Paiste cymbals. Take us through your setup and why you've chosen what you use and how it applies to your approach to putting a kit together for your music.
Yeah, so I've been playing Pearl for a really long time. My second kit actually was a Pearl, and um, now I'm using a vintage Pearl kit that I found online, and I just like love the sound of it. So I've been using that for pretty much all of my recordings, my live shows. It's basically kick. Oh, the snare is a Pearl Jupiter, which I was inspired by Stuart Copeland because he was using that Pearl Jupiter in some early recordings, but. Um, and then I have my high tom, floor tom, so I kind of like that jazzy two tom setup. And then I have my big beat Paiste ride, my dark energy, hi-hat and crashes, which I love. And normally I have like I'll do like hi-hat ride and then one crash kind of opposite the ride so that I kind of have this side-by-side thing. And I kind of switch between the 17-inch and the 19-inch dark energy crashes from Paiste. And then for sticks, I use Regal Tip, which I met them at NAMM a couple years ago and tried out the sticks and just like loved how they felt, loved the different types of sticks that they have, and so I've been playing them ever since.
And on your latest single, How to Get What You Want, that's the setup that you used on that. Now, are you also programming or are you playing everything live?
I guess it's kind of a mixture. It's the drum sounds are all live, but I kind of take sections and will loop certain things and then play a fill over it, and I kind of do it in almost in the same way I do like my live looping, where it's a section of a drum beat sampled kind of in a way. But other than that, I played there's a live bass part, and then there's a programmed bass parts. It's kind of a blend, I guess, of there's like a live keyboard part and some live guitar. But yeah, the drum set that I used in that was the Vintage Pearl, which actually is also the kit that I used in the video for it, because I kind of wanted to like reflect the recording in the video.
And with your audience is you have a huge online audience. So talk about interacting online, getting reactions from your audience. You and I spoke one time about the fact that you just found it pure inspiration, as you shared with me, that you can come up with an idea, create music around the idea, put it out to the public, and almost instantly get a reaction, get feedback, find out if it's resonating, find out where you want to take it from there. Talk a little bit about that, since you have such a presence online and you have such an interaction with your online fans and community.
Yeah, I think like the part of that that I find really exciting is I'm really into like the creative process, and then once I've released something, I kind of just want to like put it out there, and then it's done. It's like, right, it's there, people can like watch it, people can listen to it as they please, and then I'm kind of moved on to the next idea or project or whatever I'm working on. So I think that what I really like about what the internet has to offer is like just the speed at which I'm able to like come up with something, release it, or like even just like release a little clip of something I'm working on, or even if that doesn't develop into like a full idea, just being able to share the process or progress, or say, hey, I'm working on trying to learn how to make my drums, like here's a little clip of what I'm working on. So even if it's not a full complete song, it's like just kind of sharing not only the music but the process and just like ideas, and kind of sometimes I'll even like ask a question like, oh, any tips for how to mic this kind of setup or whatever. And I think I just love like getting comments and being able to like talk with people in the comment section about whatever it is that I'm working on at that time, and just like hearing other people's perspectives, and just that ongoing interaction I find to be really a cool thing.
So we've gotten a lot of questions that people want to ask. I'm going to bring our producer Taylor back with us. Taylor, where's Mr. Whipple, as Chad Smith affectionately calls him? So let's go through some questions for Elise. We got a ton of them, but let's get through a reasonable amount to so we don't keep her here all day. So what do we got?
Sure. All right. So first question asks, I love your style of music, but have you ever had any interest in venturing more into a different genre, such as alt rock or maybe country?
I guess growing up, like as far as like playing drums, I was interested in a lot of genres. Like I was playing a lot of rock at one time, and then some more like funk, and then I got more into jazz with like being in the high school jazz band. I kind of like learned about reading charts and that sort of thing, and I think all of that sort of influenced the type of music that I make as an artist. It's kind of got that like it's indie, pop, rock, jazz all kind of fused together. But I guess like specifically the genres that you mentioned, I haven't really considered like delving into country or anything like in my songwriting, but I think I do have an interest in a lot of different drumming styles.
Sure. Next question asks, is there a soundtrack from a video game that you listen to occasionally or has inspired you at all?
Oh, interesting. So a couple of tracks from, I don't know if you guys know the game, it's called Beautiful Katamari. It's like this game where you have this ball and you're pushing it and you just roll a bunch of stuff up and you try to make it as big as possible. So you like roll up little toys and things until you're big enough to roll up like people, then buildings, and it's this like thing. But they always have these really cool songs playing in that soundtrack that for a time I would like listen to, and definitely like the style of that has somewhat inspired me.
Very cool. All right, next question asks, will you ever make an album of live loop tracks?
I don't know about entirely made up of live loop tracks. I am in the process of like printing a collection CD of a lot of the stuff that I've worked on over the last 2 years, which does include like 3 or 4 live looping tracks. But I think I do I think the live looping part I like for live and videos, but as far as recording goes, I do like the process of being able to layer more stuff in a more like kind of organized way. Than sometimes the live looping is a bit more spontaneous and freeform. So I guess the answer is partially. I don't know.
Sure. Next question asks, what's your creative development process like?
Creative development process.
Yeah, like in other words, what inspires you to write a song and then start working on it from the germs of the idea to producing it?
Oh, I see. Lately I've been really inspired by making videos, and I self-produced my last video for my single "How to Get What You Want," and so it's kind of, I guess, like a backwards way of doing it, but I've kind of had a lot of like ideas for videos in my mind, and sometimes that will inspire the creation of the song, and so that's kind of where I'm at right now. But in the past, sometimes it just, you come up with like a little phrase or a word that you want to build a song around, but mainly I'd say also lately I've been kind of starting with the drums, because that's where I feel like I'm the most like creative and just natural, and so I'll come up with a drum beat or some kind of rhythmic element to build the song around.
Very cool. What is your biggest challenge of being a solo or looping artist? And would you have any advice to a musician who wants to maybe practice music more solo based and not rely on other musicians as much?
I think like maybe the biggest challenge is like just somewhat lacking this spontaneity of playing with other musicians and the type of improvisation that can come out of it. Because the sort of live looping that I do is pretty much all like kind of thought out and arranged, and I do like that part of it. I like the kind of coming up with a composition and then following that. But I think there is like lacking that element of when you're just like playing or jamming with other musicians. That's just, it's almost like something you can't really even compare the two, because they're just so vastly different. But as far as the advice goes, I'd say I don't know, just go for it, like just get into it, because if you're doing something solo, it's just you, so it's really just you pushing forward and really trying to move forward with your project or whatever it is that you're working on. So I guess like maintaining that inspiration, finding what like drives you, what inspires you to do that is really important.
What does your practice routine look like?
I honestly don't. I practiced more, like specifically drums, like growing up when I was really focused on doing that for a long time, and so over the last couple of years I was practicing singing for a while, like a lot, very regularly, and then there's been a period where I'm practicing songwriting or practicing recording, so it kind of comes and goes. But a lot of times when I'm feeling like practicing drums, I just kind of sit down and will come up with, I guess I kind of come up with an idea in my head of like a beat or something that I want it to sound like, and then I'll work on making that like a reality on the kit in a way. So like, I don't know, and I just kind of play and I just have fun.
The next person asks, what would be your favorite or ideal collaboration? Who would you like to collaborate with?
As you know, I'm a big fan of Stuart Copeland. I love a lot of his work. Drumming and his songwriting I think is really cool. I've also been really into Lewis Cole's music. I think he's another example of a drummer that has really, he's really both a songwriter and a drummer, and so I think that's very inspiring for me as a drummer songwriter. But yeah, I think he'd be like really cool to work with.
Very cool. Next question asks, any tips for maximizing sound quality in a recording space? Do you have a particular setup that you like in order to get the most benefit?
I have to say I really don't know much about recording. I've only just started getting into that. Whenever I like any songs that I've released, I haven't like engineered or mixed, so I'm just gonna say that up front. But as I do, quote unquote, like engineer my more like casual like Instagram videos and stuff. And lately I've been using this new microphone called the OC818 from Austrian Audio, and it sounds great for like I've been doing these one mic drum setups in my videos, and so I feel like it really captures like a wide range of frequencies, and just sounds really good with the drums. So yeah, I guess I don't have much else to say on that. I'm really just starting to get into that.
Have you checked out at least the Yamaha EAD10? Have you had a chance to check that out?
Mm-mm.
You'll love it, and I think a lot of the viewers here today, you should check it out. It's a great piece. It's kind of an all-in-one. You mount a sensor and a microphone in one enclosure on the top hoop of your bass drum, and attach it to a little brain on the side, and through your smartphone using this interface and this microphone slash trigger, you can record drums and play along with songs and record them and record videos. And it's like an all-in-one production center for the modern musician that's extremely, extremely cool.
Oh wow, that's cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I think you'll really like it. I think you'll find it useful. So I have a question for Elise, and that is, what's next? Your new single's out. I know you're working into radio. What's going on now, and what do you see in the next chapter?
Yeah, I guess I've really been focused the last year or two on songwriting, like kind of coming up with how I want things to look and sound, and because I kind of have a vision in my head of how I want that to be, but really getting myself to the place where I'm happy with what I'm making, and just releasing like things that I really love. And so I guess it's kind of like an ongoing goal as an artist, just to like be releasing things that you like, but so it's a bit vague, but I guess like the direction of my last single is kind of where I'm headed. And then also the recent collaborations that I've been doing on Instagram, where I've been posting a drum video and then uploading the audio for people to download and work with, has been really inspiring for me. So I think like figuring out more ways to do like online collaborations with people who follow me, my friends, just a lot of different people, just because I think that's something that is, I don't know, it's always different. So like working with, just finding, I don't know, like new ways to collaborate really is a big thing for me.
And you're always working on new music and writing and recording. That's just never stops, right?
Yeah.
So Taylor, what's our wrap-up question?
All right, wrap-up question. I figured before we even get to that, I'll share with you a really cool collage that one of your fans sent in. So hopefully you can see that screen now. So kind of a cool piece of art. So thank you to the person who sent that in. That's really cool.
All right, from a fan. Very nice. That's very sweet. Thank you, Taylor.
All right, so for last question, this person mentions that, you know, you mentioned experiencing stage fright. Is there anything you try and do to calm your nerves before you go on and perform?
I guess like when I first started performing, I just like think, I don't know if this is even helpful or like a healthy way to do it, but I sometimes will think back to like my worst or like most embarrassing performance, and I'm like, well, it can't be that bad. So like, I don't know, I guess it could be, but I just try to remember like all the times that I've gotten through embarrassing moments or moments where I've like made mistakes on stage, and I just always think like, oh, I got through that, it's fine now. Like, what's the worst that's gonna happen, really, you know? So I guess that's my way of getting through that, but I don't know if that's helpful. But
Well, that gives you confidence, right? Because you're basically psyching yourself that you've already been through the worst, so whatever happens, you're ready.
yeah, pretty much. And even if it's worse, even if it's the most embarrassing performance, or I really make some big mistake or whatever, I think a lot of times people, you know, it's just more of a thing in your head really than people watching. And so even like thinking back to when I've watched a friend perform and they're like, oh, I made this huge mistake, I'm like, I had no idea, like it sounded great to me. So I think like just being aware of how other people are perceiving it, and like not trying to get too caught up in your own head about it is important.
And staying composed, like what you just described, requires that self-awareness that maybe you made a mistake, but the rest of the world doesn't know that. So, you have to just kind of go through it so that the audience never really notices anything, and they stay entertained.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I got an interesting question recently for you out of our email bag of questions, and I found it so just like out of the blue. Someone emails us and says, is Elise would ever consider doing stand-up comedy? I'm like, whoa, wait a second. What are we missing here? Like, she plays all these instruments and is doing all these projects and loops, but what's this about stand-up comedy? What are they referring to?
I guess I do like being silly online sometimes, and I like to make jokes, and I am definitely on the more jokester side of my family, but I don't know. I don't think I could ever do stand-up comedy. Like, that's very intimidating to me, and I don't think I would have the skill set to do that necessarily. But I do have an interest in humor, and like, I don't know. I like to have fun.
Well, you can see it from your online fan base. And Elise Trouw, thank you so much for taking your time today and sharing all of the insight and ideas, and just an inside look at your approach to drumming and art and singing and songwriting and loop making. And we're very grateful. Modern Drummer. Everybody, here is Modern Drummer, our latest issue. That's actually right before the Aaron Spears issue that just came out. And want to share with everyone that Modern Drummer, when you subscribe to Modern Drummer, it's analog and it's digital, because the fact is a lot of our subscribers want both. They still want to hold a print magazine, and yet, of course, they want all the access that you get and only can get digitally with the videos and the archived content and everything else. So thank you, everyone, for your support. moderndrummer.com/subscribe. Thank you, Kelly Peisty and Peisty.com. Thank you, Topeka, moderndrummer.topeka.live for online virtual meet and greets. And of course, Don Lombardi and Drum Channel, drumchannel.com. And most of all, Elise Trouw, thank you so much. We can't wait to have you back on our All Access Hits webinar and cover the next chapter of your career and all the amazing things you're doing. And thank you, Taylor Whipple. And thank you, everybody. Stay safe. This is a crazy time out there. We wish you the best. We'll be here for you always. And stay safe and healthy. Elise, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave. This has been fun.